All right. Okay. So I see one. I see open-mindedness. I see discussion, growth mindset, courageous, clarity, collaboration. That's a very good one. Everyone, keep on coming, keep on coming. Let's see what are the different things or the different behaviors that you feel makes a planning great. Right? We have a couple of interesting ones here. We have, I really like being realistic. That's also a very nice one. Especially right now as MCP, Lex, you're like so ambitious, you feel like you can change the world. That's fine. It's good to think like that also. Discussion, yes, very important. You do that during your planning as well. Purpose, clarity, very good. All right. Fantastic. So there's a lot of interesting things I think all of us experience when we go to planning, because that's what makes the planning all the more special. So now let's actually go ahead, and I'll come back to the word cloud a little bit later during the session. So a little bit of some expectations that I want to set is this is a little bit of a heavy session. Whenever the regional office wants to do heavy data sessions, they always call me. So I'm kind of in a situation right now where I have to communicate a lot of information to you guys in a much more digestible manner. So remember that we'll have a lot of information. So let's be alert. And if you guys want, take notes. During my RPM, I remember I had this notebook with me. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So I remember during my last year's RPM, I have this huge notebook, and all I did was take notes every single time. So whenever you feel like you're going through a lot of different information that you don't understand, write those specific things down so we can go through them and we can discuss that later on. And remember this as well, be vulnerable to yourself, because that's how you're going to get the best out of this space. I know that as an MCP, it's always, you have this expectation that I need to be this specific way. I need to know these specific things. So it's fine. You don't need to pretend to know something that you do not know, and you don't need to say something to yourself that you don't think you are. Just be super vulnerable with yourself, because that's the only way you're going to get the best out of this. And always, as MCPs, we take full ownership, nothing less. So let's keep that going no matter what. Okay. So a couple of the objectives that we want to talk about today is I want to communicate this thing that as MCP, you understand the importance of having data orientation in your planning. What data does, what data can solve for you in your planning. And at the same time, you understand the role of an MCP during planning. And at the same time, you create principles for conducting plannings. So this is 3 simple objectives that we have. They sound very simple, but it's a huge aspect of things. But let's focus on diving deep into it one by one. So this is where you are right now, because I think initially you guys had a session with Tony where you went through your planning tools, you guys went through your preparation material, what you need to do. And maybe right now you have a general understanding of what is required to do in planning. Can I have a not raise of hands? Can you just let me know in the chat by just typing me, how many of you went through an MC planning? Because I think some of you started your MC terms a little bit late. Some of you probably became MCPs directly by becoming from LCPs. So if you have gone through your MC planning, just type me. If you have not, just say I have not in the chat very quickly. Me, all right, Nisha, me. Okay, most of you, me. All right, me. Okay, awesome. So again, even if you have, I have not. Oh, that's perfectly fine. Thank you, Isabel. So if you have not also, it's fine, because we'll figure it out together. So now, when you look at it, your first stage is your pre-planning. Your pre-planning is a very important part of your planning, which involves your onboarding, your preparation, all those things. And then afterwards, you have, during the planning, you have like things like, okay, how do I manage my planning as an MCP? How do I practice planning principles? How do I set the principles for planning? And also, why is data orientation important for your planning? So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And at the same time, in the future capacity building spaces, you're going to talk about what's post-planning, how do you involve stakeholders in the post-planning, how do you downscale your plan, how to even use the chair, and RO supporting you with timeline and everything. So these are essentially the 8 blocks that the entire planning tool has been created upon. So it has not changed a lot since last year. And I appreciate that, because I feel like last year's framework was very good, that it was very simplified. So if you look at it, you have these 8 stages. First stage is your MC team building. It's cool, your MC identity. I see a lot of, for example, I was an MC lion when I was in Sri Lanka. So there's a huge lore about why we call ourselves lions. And now I'm an MC matrix. And there's a huge story of why we do that. So just like that, there's MC Dragon, I see MC Tough, I see a lot of different MCs here who are built on some like compounding principle and some vision, and how they want to unlock what do they individually bring into that play. And that's this entire process that we call MC team building. And the other thing is contextual understanding or context analysis, which is you understand what's happening internally in your entity, in Isaac, and at the same time, what's happening externally in your country and in the world in general. And if anything has taught us in the last 2 years, that external context is so much important because it affects everything that goes on in Isaac. And at the same time, focus selection. Now, as an MC team or as an entity in general, what should our priorities be? If you heard, when I joined, I heard Mary said that the regional focus is towards global talent. Now, in your entity, what does that mean? Do you prioritize global talent, or do you look at EWA, or do you prioritize GV? How does that look like? So those are the things that you select based on the revenue streams that you need, impact, feasibility, and all those things. And the fourth thing is setting your goals. Now that you have decided, okay, cool, I'm going to focus on this. This is what I'm going to be doing. What are the goals that I'm going to set? Now let's look at the past data, validate, assume, and we move on from there. And once you have selected your goals, now here's the thing, goals don't happen just on their own. You need projects, you need strategy that actually supports your entity's direction, and at the same time, your goal setting. And once you have, built this incredible system, how do you actually make them more actionable, more accountable, so that everyone on the team is updated and the progress can be reflected? And these involve your synergies, routines, your team minimums, all of that stuff. And then once you have created all these things, the next part is, okay, if I make my plans and if my network does not follow my plans, if they're not onboarded with my direction, it's just a bunch of 10 people in the MC team just telling that this is what we want to do. So how does my network management support my strategy? How does it support my direction? And at the same time, there's a risk management as well, because in Isaac, we prepare for anything. We brace for impact, like we said. We get ready for any situation that could occur, and that's why we do risk management. So these are 8 great processes that we follow in planning to make it very simple. And we use these things on a sequential, chronological way to actually take us to where we want to go. So today, we're actually going to talk about a few of these things. And I think I'm going to mostly start with goal setting, because I feel like goal setting is a very important thing. And that's where this whole concept of data comes in. So if you were there at last year RFS, I think it was around May or June. I can't remember exactly. But then I think I took a session with you guys about data management. Maybe some of you were there, maybe some of you were not. So I didn't want to do the exact same thing because it would be too redundant. But then there are a couple of slides. So the people who were there, this is going to resharp your memories again. But for the people who were not there, maybe you can just use this as an opportunity to understand the scope of why goal setting is important. So last year, this was me when I was an MCVP elect. So I was MCVP elect, MCVP IGT, so excited to start my MC term. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to make it. And I was planning for my IGT goal with my team, MC Lions 2021. We were getting together, MC Sri Lanka, we were planning our goals. And the thing about my team was at that time, we were so ambitious. We were like 9 guys and 1 girl, 10 people, so excited to do like great things. And and we even called ourselves like making the impossible possible. That's what our stand was. So we were like, you know what, let's just break every boundary. So semester 1, this is what happened. We sat down and decided on our goal. So the year before, we actually did like 28 realizations. So 28 realizations, we ended up thinking, okay, you know what, we can like double this, triple this, we can do as much as we want. And, I was like, this is 225% goal, and it will challenge us, it will push for more, but it's going to bring a lot of money and blah, blah. And I was like saying this. But what I realized was my goal setting at the time, when I set my goals in my first semester, I did not really look at patterns. I did not look at, what's the projection happening? Would it make sense to actually downscale this? But that's the thing with environments. And that's the thing with, everything that's happening. You think, all right, we are really going to do something because we believe in it. But sometimes belief is also not enough. You need to exactly know where these things are going to come from. And all right. So what I wanted to say was there's nothing wrong with you being ambitious, because if you are a super ambitious person, I think when you were in front of your national plenary, when you were making your election speech, and when you were probably saying that, oh, this year, our entity is going to be this, it's certainly not, that's not a problem. That's why we're here in Isaac. In Isaac, we believe in dreams and we believe in aspirations, and we believe that humanity and young people can really unlock something so powerful for the world and for ourselves. We believe in that, and there's nothing wrong with believing in that, and there's nothing wrong with selling a dream to a bunch of people who believe in me. But it's also important to understand how many, from where, with whom, when, how. To work on the specifics to understand that, okay, if my dream is to really achieve all this, bring a 200% growth, increase my revenue up to this month, after this much, have this thing, where's it gonna come from? How many do I need? With whom does this happen? When do we do it? And how does it happen? Be very specific on the goals and the plans. So at the end of the day, you make sure that you know exactly how your dreams are going to be achieved. So that's where this concept of data analytics comes in. And I don't want to take a lot of time talking about data because I think we talk too much about data sometimes also. But if you look at data analytics, fast forward, when I started really getting into this concept of data, like I started looking at projections as an MCVP, then I started understanding, okay, you know what, my market's actually performing in this way. I'm now realizing how the funnel's looking like. And I started comparing this and I factored in COVID as well. So then I realized, my analysis need to be more structured. So when you're planning for your goals, you essentially need to look at the previous couple of years. How exactly did you guys do in realizations, in approvals? And at the same time, since we are an MC, since we are an international, we work with an international network, it's very important to understand where does the majority of our supply come from. Again, these are not real. This is not real data. This is just like different assumptions. So don't look at this and make decisions. But what I want you to know is this is how you need to start thinking. Where is the majority of our surplus coming from? Where is our supply and how does our demand look like in that sense? And what is it telling us about the information? What is the timeline for our approvals like? Which months do we have the highest number of approvals coming in? Factor in your university timelines. When do these things act up? And then you project your goals. And when is the activity of realizations? For example, if I'm maybe realizing in March, and if I'm approving in March, and if I'm realizing in September, what does that tell me about my timeline? Maybe that's something I need to factor in, because then right after an approval, I won't get a realization. I need to keep those things in mind as well when I'm doing my goal setting. And what is the approved versus realization conversation like? Is it happening in a linear trajectory, or is it changing all of a sudden? What's going on? And where is my revenue distributions coming from? MCP finances, you know what I'm talking about, but this is a general thing that an entire team needs to know as well. Which products are generating actual good amounts of revenue, and how do I actually double down my focus on those things? And where is like your revenue distribution? How aware you are about what has been happening? Is this being factored into your plans, into your decisions and things like that? And then more realistically, it came into this thing that when we went into replanning, I actually made a more safer assumption. I was like, 50% growth goal will challenge us, push for more. And it also represents 30% of our revenue. And we are the generation. Obviously, I was not able to achieve my goals. 2021 was a very tough year. But then it taught me one important thing. It taught me that whenever you're trying to sell a vision, whenever you're trying to create this picture, it's always important for you to focus on the specifics. How is that going to happen? Where is that going to happen from? It's not. There's nothing wrong with being ambitious. There's nothing wrong with telling your team and your planner, your LCPs that, guys, let's actually do more. Let's dream more. But people nowadays want plans. They want you to represent something to them that is much more specific and much more clear. And then, you work on those ideas, you work on those principles, and then you make your idea, your vision quite clear to them. So that's the general idea, So, and obviously, if I asked you which planning sounded more grounded, like you would obviously say it was planning number 2, because there was a lot of data that went into making those decisions. And just like that, when you're going into your MC planning, you have to also think about this thing. Most of your MCVPs are either coming from LCs, or maybe they're even coming by being ESTs, or maybe they're retermers in some situations. But they're always coming from this perspective of not knowing what are the fundamentals of plannings. Because in an LC level planning, I don't know. I always feel like in an LC level planning, we're so ambitious. We always constantly say that we're going to do great things, and it's fine. But when you come into an MC, that's the expectation setting that needs to be done. Things need to be specific. Things need to have clear plans. The data needs to validate, support, and do all of that as well. So it's very important for you to practice this mentality internally as an MCP and challenge your MC team as well. Whenever they're bringing you goals, whenever they're bringing you ideas, all right, what is the background for this idea? Is this idea justified by what you're trying to do? So that's the thing. And now, when you look at data analysis in general, it's not something that you also need to do during your planning. Now, every time, I always reiterate this whenever I talk to any MCP. It's that this is not something that you should do just in your planning. It's something that's always going to be embedded in your role in different ways, different capacities. It's something you're always going to try. Because if you just plan your goal once and if you completely don't look at the goal again till you fill a goal application or something when AI releases an award ceremony or something, then that's not productive, and that's not the way entities need to be headed towards. But these things need to be in your conversations, especially during your monthly reviews. One of the good GCPs I saw in how Indonesia did this, especially OP as an MCP, this was something that they factored in all the time. How was our GVA? And these things need to be something that constantly reflects in your conversations. Then you need to, as MCPs, practice this. You guys need to, as MCPs, bring these things forward in your entity, within your members, within your teams, to actually build these conversations on. And just like that, any skill can be trained. You don't need me to teach you a session on data analytics, but I think we have something coming up for you, so don't worry about that. But always remember that it starts with a very simple way. It starts with you actually pushing yourself in the first 5 minutes to, figure out a way to get this information, and then you manipulate it, use it in any way. But at the same time, something cool is also coming. So maybe you have seen this on Instagram. Maybe you have this has been teased to you in the past a little bit. So we're actually building a super cool tool that is a superpower of data for AP. And this basically will have a lot of information of different products and portfolios that you guys can go through. We're actually still building it. There's a great team of people building this tool. So hopefully this will be coming to you in another week or two. And then you guys can use this before. The idea is you can use this in your planning, especially in your preparation, to do analysis and just understand what were the trends that were shaping in your products to make better decisions. So hopefully you don't have to download all those DAL files and figure out a way to analyze them, because we got you covered over there. All right. So a couple of things about data. Again, this is very similar to what I spoke about last year, but I want to reiterate this. Don't be scared of a CXV or an XLS file. It's just simple data that has been just mashed up together. Imagine you want mashed potato, but you get some potatoes. If you squash it up, make it in a nice way, you get something to eat. So something like that. And if you don't know it, Google it. Trust me, Google is the best teacher that you need to do anything. Just tomorrow, I want to learn how to do knitting. I'm just going to Google it, and I think I'm going to learn it very quickly. And always cross-reference. That's a very important part of the MCP experience, because Google, YouTube, it's all one ecosystem, Tony. So cross-reference is also a very good way to actually validate things. I constantly remember whenever I was looking at data, I always made someone else also look into it, so that they would get a better picture, and they could also support. And then, we could easily see, okay, what's going wrong, what's right, and what's not there. And also, if you have ever done data analytics in the past, I think you can really relate to this. The computer does all the calculations, all the VLOOKUPs and matched indexes. It will do all the sums and averages, but then your brain, after looking at all that data, your brain is the one that tells you, okay, this is the insight I'm getting. The idea of using a data tool, the idea of using any information platform is actually to show you something that you want to see. And once you see that set of rows, or once you see that graph, it doesn't mean anything unless you don't know how to analyze it. It doesn't mean anything unless you know what it's telling you, what it's trying to tell you. So that's important. And fifth thing is, when it comes to data, just practice. But hopefully, we got you covered with the dashboard, and hopefully you guys will be able to take something. But again, it's a good thing to learn. It's a good thing to know your data. All right. So again, if you are interested in doing these data manipulations on your own, and if you want to do that, you can obviously go to on XY. You can go to the resource center. You can get all this information, especially data files. They're also sent monthly to MCPs. So you guys should definitely be getting them from Ayub, and you can do your own calculations. And to have the best output, remember this. We would need more information than that. Like I said to you, sometimes exchange information is not enough to validate just what you want to achieve. You need to look at more data. You need to look at more information that will actually tell you something different about the information that you have. And for that, you look at so many different things. It's external data and just like that. But now, when you talk about focus selection, when you talk about having the right questions, it's also important to know where you're going first. For example, let's say the easiest example I can point to is, you see a lot of South Asian entities, they're focusing on exchange-driven strategies now, because that's quite easy for them, and because their borders are opening up, they start focusing more on that because it's easier for them. But similarly, you see some oceanic countries, you see East Asian countries that actually open borders quite late compared to South Asian countries. So their countries would actually focus more on an EWA BD subsystem strategy because it's much more easier, and at the same time, it aligns with the government's health and safety policies. So that's why you need this external information to actually decide your entity's direction. And that is why, and because of that, we will actually talk about focus selection, which is a very interesting topic. Now, when you look at focus selection, this is the thing that actually sets your planning's blueprint. It sets your planning's foundation. It sets your planning's basis. So with focus selection, you exactly know where is the direction that this planning is taking, where is the ship going towards. And to do that, this is how the planning flow looks like. So yes, so when we talk about focus selection, what happens is we select the entity focus based on the revenue streams diversification, which is ELD, W, and BD initiatives. So why do we select focus? We obviously look as a way, like our products at the end of the day need to bring us revenue. That's very important because if we don't have revenue, then we can't take Isaac's vision forward. We have to maybe shut down, we have to close, we have to restrict operations, which is not useful for us. We believe in leadership development. And remember this three triangle, it's people, finances, and what was the other one? People, finances, and leadership. That's what Isaac's compound, like that's the holy triangle in Isaac. People, finances, and leadership. That's what works. So in order to deliver for people to have a good experience, they need leadership. And to provide them with good experiences, you also need finance. And at the same time, to drive leadership forward, you need these two things. So all three are equally dependent on each other. And that's how the Holy Trinity is formed. Now, when we look at focus selection in general, there's this interesting thing that I want to put out here. It's called I Don't Want to Be a Duck. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the White-Pekin's duck effect. But this is a very interesting effect it's a very interesting phenomenon to describe about direction and things like that. So the duck knows how to walk, okay? And the duck, I don't know, this is debatable, knows how to fly, but it also knows how to swim. But all three cannot be done at once. And that's the interesting bit about it. They don't do anything right. Now, if you have seen a duck swim, if they probably go so smoothly on top, but if you look at the way they, like move around their fins and, they do that, it's very messy. And obviously they can't fly. I mean, they just jump a couple of meters and that's pretty much it. So they don't do anything right. It's because they focus on doing all these things at once. And I thought I wanted to be a specialist. Now, for example, whenever you try to do something, you feel like, maybe I'm not really trying data analytics because I feel like I'm not good at it. Maybe I'm not ready to open an Excel file and I don't think I can do it. And I need to maybe have some certification from Google or somewhere telling me I can be a data scientist. Maybe I stuck at uncomfortable scenarios to talk to people because I'm an introvert and that does not work for me. Similarly, we all have our own demons and we all think that, we can't be good at something. But the idea is that's a mindset that you have to completely avoid, in the sense that that's thinking like you need to be a specialist or something. So you have to settle into this idea that, okay, you know what, maybe I don't even need to be that good. I can just try. And that mentality is critical as an MCP because, if you are able to facilitate that environment for yourself, that, trying is more important, then similarly, those are the values that your team is built around. That's the environment that your team is also built around. And if you want to, be good, you just need to try in everything. It can be anything. Now, for example, whatever makes you feel uncomfortable, you guys need to figure out a way to actually create that. I always believe that you have to seek discomfort, or you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations to grow. And that's similarly what the MCP role is all about, putting yourself in that situation. So when we talk about focus selection, why we talk about this is, why I even talked about the duck effect, is because there is something that your entity is probably really good upon. And there's maybe something that your entity is like figuring out right now. Let's say if you guys were probably very good at Exchange at one point, and then you had to figure out how to be good at BD and EWA, then you would actually start focusing your attention more on BD and EWA, because that's what's going to actually start, like, that's what's going to show you result. And when we talk about focus, what we actually mean is when we focus on something, we actually invest something in it. We put our resources, we increase the number of people, we increase the investments, we increase the conversation or the attention that focus gets. So that's how it happens. Now, if you say, hey, OGT is the focus product, but then I don't even remember it's the focus product till I go into my replanning. Oh, it was a focus product. What did we do? So that's the same idea. If you're going to say that this is what I want to do, this is what I want to focus on, because we feel like this is the right thing, that should essentially reflect in your resources, in your subsystems. And when you want to focus on something, you should look into these things called impact and feasibility. Impact is, if I want to focus on OGT right now, does it actually bring me money long-term, so short-term, long-term? Or versus if I focus more on BD, does it actually fulfill my needs for revenue? Is the impact high? And the way you determine your impact is solely up to your entity. Well, how do you guys look at impact? For another entity, it could be, hey, just bringing money. For another entity, it could be something like brand. It could be perception, things like that. And then feasibility. How easy is it to execute this thing? Is it actually easy? If it's easy to focus on, then we should focus on it, because that's what we want, right? We want to put our resources in the smartest way, in the best way possible. That's the general idea going ahead. And now, these are some great tools that we use in ISEC. It's also internationally used. It's a prioritization metrics. This is our CVE project prioritization matrix. You can use these things to actually identify impact, feasibility. This is a very good one that I use as an MCP as well. I'm still an MCP, but when I use it in my planning, investigate, prioritize, avoid, and consider, things that you can actually use to determine what is the focus or the direction that you want to take. And the demand work prioritization matrix. This next one, okay, I don't know what this is, but this is also pretty cool. All right, so this is a RISE score. So a RISE score is reach, impact, confidence, multiplied by each other, divided by the effort. So always remember this thing, that you need to factor in feasibility at some point. Like, the idea of feasibility needs to come in, because if, say, okay, the best way for ISEC to make money right now could be investing into Web3 development projects, or, buying and offloading crypto. I mean, if that's the way you want to make money, that's how you should do it. But then again, the effort that you would have to put in would be a lot, because you need to literally learn and teach your membership a new type of education that's probably not already there. So it's a lot of effort for a short-term ROI. And this is a very good metric that's used in economics as well, the BCG matrix that you can actually use to calculate things. But I have a simple version of doing it. I'm also going to teach that to you. So this is what your planning tool tells you. This is the operation focus tool. You have the impact and effort, which is impact looks at potential revenues, market reach, strategic goals, cost, capacity, and risk. Now, I don't always use this. Here's what I do. Now, for example, if potential revenues is an impactful thing that your MC wants to focus on, keep it. If market reach is important, keep it. If strategic goals are important, keep it. But let's say if you have another thing like brand perception, that's an important thing when it comes to impact for you, then maybe add that. And let's say in the case of effort, you actually want to think more about membership, membership health or something like that, you can add it. And then you can sum this all up and you can vote on it with your team. So how I used to do it and how I still do it is I actually break these things down to use to vote with the team. So if you see here, for everything, market reach, strategic goals. So this is like a team's decision. And this actually looks at when you start your planning, you probably have like an annual report or something, or a report that was done of the previous MC term to see how performances happen. So you start your planning with that. You start your planning with looking at the reports. Okay, what each product, what's the outcome, what's been happening. And with that, you actually vote using this for each and every portfolio from 1 to 5. What is the feasible, like how much are you going to rate for market reach, strategic goals? And based on that, you actually have a focus. You have your focus selection done. So that's a very easy way to do it. That's because you actually, after all of that, because every MC member is included in this, and it's more unanimous rather than you just telling them, guys, I just feel like BD is pretty good, we should do BD. But then if you do this, if you actually have data and assumptions, then you represent a lot of different opinions, and this is more sound. as well. So this is one cool way of doing it as well. So remember, you don't have to use the exact planning tool. Customization is very critical for success. You can, if you don't even want the tool, you can do that. It's totally fine. That's how you need to do it. Like whatever works best for you, adapt it to that. Adapt what is useful, reject what is useless. Now that we have actually talked about focus selection, we talked about goal setting, guys, I want to do a quick energy check. I think I was speaking for a while. On a scale of 1 to 10, how's your energy like? What's going on? Oh, Sajjan is 10. Nice, 10, 8. All right, cool. 5, all right. All right, guys, that's nice. 5, 7, 10. Okay. All right, Min, wow, you're 10. That's so cool. All right. So again, I'm going to go in with a little bit of technical stuff, but hopefully I try to keep it specific and try to make it a little bit interesting. So we talked about focus selection. We talked about goal setting. You guys a little bit, I think, now understand what is needed in these specific areas. So next up, what we'll actually talk about is a bit of strategy. Now, strategy is an interesting thing because a lot of times I feel like strategy is something that we don't really overlook together as much as we should in a planning. And then we'll briefly touch upon accountability systems and network management as well. Risk management there's going to be an interesting session done tomorrow on it, so I'm just going to leave it for that. But when you look at strategy, a strategy is basically a plan or an action that is designed to achieve a long-term goal or whatever it is you want to do. So it can be a short-term project or it can be a long-term project. It really depends on what your entity is looking at or what it really wants to achieve, looking at your focus, looking at your goal setting. And how you plan your strategy is using these things. You have your measure of success, which is like the end goal, which is like the promised land. Where is the strategy going to go? And then you have KPIs, which is probably monthly or weekly indicators that you would actually need to see if the strategy is working. And it's always lead metrics. And then your description of the project, a short little text. What is this project? What's the outcome? What is it? What's the scope and all that stuff? And then what is the outcome? What is the expectation of the strategy? Let's say if the strategy is, if the strategy is building a sales management system for BD, what is the outcome? Your outcome is obviously going to be, create a finalized created dashboard for sales, something like that. And what are the tactics or what are the key activities? Now, let's say if my strategy is a finalized sales dashboard. So it obviously has things like, a first meeting with the team, a debrief, a wireframing, meeting up to set up parts, things like that. And what is the HR needed? So is this something that an MC member can do on their own? Or do you need an EST, NST? Do you need these requirements? Do you need another MC member in Synergy? You plan all these things out using that. And when it comes to accountability, this is my favorite part. The accountability is, the fact of or condition of being accountable. And that is your routines, your minimums. Where do you report your goals? Where do you report your project execution? How does your MC operate? And network management is about all the sets of activities that represent implementation channels for the strategy that you plan that needs to be executed by your network. How does that happen? What goes on? All of that. And risk management is the process of understanding and managing risk, which I said we're not going to talk about a lot today, but obviously during this RPM, you're going to have a lot of time to talk about these things. Cool. Now that you're all sleepy, we'll have a small activity. So what's going to happen is, we're going to put you all in breakout rooms. And what I need you all to do is there'll be 6 breakout rooms, each discussing a different aspect of planning. One being focus selection, the other being goal setting, another one for strategy building, another one for accountability system, another one for network management, and another one for risk management. And the objective of this space is going to be for you guys as MCPs to work together to create the principles that you should consider when creating anything related to this specific topic. And within the breakout room, one person at the end of it is going to present to all of us here what were the principles you feel should be kept as minimums to take this forward. So as you can see, I want non-negotiable. So what a non-negotiable means is a task or a principle or behavior that makes sure that you can actually do this space much more effectively. So going ahead, this is how it's going to look like. We're going to have the slides. The amazing CC team is going to put these slides onto the chat. You guys can go in, and once you're allocated into the breakout room, you're going to have 10 minutes. So discuss with each other, get together, formulate something. You can put down like your non-negotiables, like what is the non-negotiable and a description of it. If you want, you can put an example. And then what is going to be the role of MCPs to actually drive this, and the role of an MC team, and if there's any other like points or something like that. So yeah, I think the link, yes, thank you so much, Dilendra. The link, oh, you guys can't see this. Can you see it? I think you have access to the slide, right? All right, perfect. Okay, so yeah, what you need to do is just go into this thing and then get together, and you'll be put in your breakout rooms right now. So I'll give you guys 10 minutes. So then, okay, perfect. Spreadsheet link. Teacher, what do you mean by spreadsheet link? The planning tools. Oh, wait, don't you guys have the planning tools? Teacher, why don't you go, and when we come back, we'll discuss about it, all right? Hi. Hi, Min Min. Yeah, I got this mic because the traffic. You want echo, or you want me to reduce the echo?
Can reduce echo. I think now will.
What about now?
Be the. Yeah, good.
Okay, done.
Yeah, pause recording. Because we don't have sponsor for this.
Man, how's the life?
Amazing. Can pause recording. We can pause recording.
Am I the host?
No, CC will be the one who paused.
Yeah, Dhanula and Mahit, you can post the recording.